Show you the most streamlined process to log into Command and submit your paperwork for your listings or your deals to the office for compliance review. The first thing you need to do is go to agent.kw.com, this link right up here, and you're going to log in with your username and password for Command. If you don't know this, please reach out to me and I can provide you with your username and the instructions to reset your password. So I'm going to click sign in here, which will bring you to your dashboard. Now, there's two important sections of Command. Now, there's a lot actually in Command, but the two important things that you need to be familiar with for submitting your paperwork is the contacts, which is this first icon right here. And we can click the KW at the top if you don't or aren't familiar with all of these options. So contacts is your database, and that's where you're going to store all of your clients and their contact information. And then you'll have opportunities, which is this little handshake down here, and opportunities are your transactions. Now, the first step is that the people that are associated with the transaction do need to be entered as contacts into your database, but you can do this all when creating the transaction. So we're going to do this, again, the most streamlined way, and I'm going to come here and click directly on opportunities. Now, the opportunities dashboard that you see here, you'll have some pipelines. We have our listing pipeline and our buyer pipeline, which just gives you the ability to organize all of your transactions. This is not important from the paperwork side. This is just for your own organization, and I have a lot of other resources that do go through how to set that up. But we're going to go straight to creating an opportunity or a transaction so that you're able to submit the paperwork. So to create an opportunity, we're going to click on this blue Create Opportunity button, and you're going to see this pop up. Okay, Market Center will already be filled in with Keller Williams Select Realty. If you are on a team, you will have your team name filled in here, and you're going to see the owner as the person who's the leader of your team. When I scroll down to the bottom, you're also going to see an assignee field with your own name filled in, and that is important if you are on a team. The assignee field is what gives you access to this transaction, and you can add anyone else from your team so that they can also access the paperwork for this transaction. Now, if you're an individual agent, I'm just going to hit X there. This is going to be grayed out. You're going to have nothing to fill in for team or owner. The opportunity type, we have 4, but you're really only choosing one of the first 2, so that's a listing or a buyer. If you are the listing agent, you're going to do listing. If you're on the buy side, you'll choose buyer. So I'm going to do a buyer just for this one. Now, if you run into the scenario where you're doing both, you're listing their house and also helping them buy their house, you're going to do this twice. You're going to do one as a listing and one as a buyer because those are 2 separate transactions. Next, we have our client. So if you do have the client in your contacts, you can search for them here. So I do have Joe Smith here, but maybe that's not the right Joe Smith. I can actually just click Add New Contact. And so this is if the person's not already in your contacts, you're going to need to add them here. Email address is helpful. If you do plan to use DocuSign, you will need their email address. And of course, if you have their phone number, you can fill it in, but these are optional. You do not need to fill these in. Then you have co-buyer. This is if there is a second person buying this house. So if it's a husband and wife, partners, whoever, you can fill in the second client here. Okay. Opportunity name is going to default to the name of the client and the type of opportunity. So Joe Smith buyer. We do ask that you put the property address in here if you know it already. So if you already have an accepted offer with your buyer and you know what property they're buying, you could come and fill this in here. Now, if you don't know it, you can leave it as is and go back and change it later. Or if it's a listing, you should know it from the beginning anyways, so you can fill that in. Custom tags. This is completely optional and not relevant for paperwork, but that is just a way you can organize your opportunities. We talk about that in a different video. Estimated close date. This is important. If you do already have an accepted offer, you can fill in what the closing date is. However, if you don't have an accepted offer, you don't want to fill anything in here quite yet until you know what the actual closing date is going to be. The reason is the brokers will use this date to review files. They're always going to review all of the files that are being submitted in order of closing date, so they're reviewing things that are closing sooner versus closing later. So just make sure to leave that blank if you don't know the closing date yet, and remember to go back and add it in once you do know it. Then we have time frame and budget. Again, these are optional fields just for your own organization. So if you want to keep track of how far out this person is looking to buy, you can do that here, and their budget as well. Commission rate, this is where you're going to fill in your half of the commission. So if it's 5% total and you're getting 2.5, you're just going to fill in that 2.5 here. Then we have opportunity phase and stage, and that's in reference to the pipeline that we looked at the very beginning, where you can track what part of the life cycle of the transaction you're in with this particular deal. So again, this is optional. You can leave it as is if you're not planning to use those organizational features, but you can use this to keep track of where you are with that transaction. Okay. So we're going to hit create, and that has now created our opportunity. From this screen, we're on the Details tab. You can also edit the information. So when I scroll down, I can see all the key information here. If I click on the pencil, I can change that opportunity name. Maybe I didn't know what address it was, and now I do. We have the estimated close date. If we know what the day it's going to close now, you could fill that in. And multiple other dates that you can use just for your own organization. Again, completely optional. And just hit save here. And so now our transaction is created. Step 2, to actually upload documents, we're going to go to the Documents tab, and we need to select a checklist type. So it says right here, to start work with opportunity, please select checklist type, which is referring to this drop-down you see on the left-hand side. When I click on this, you're going to have a few different options. 9 times out of 10, you're going to choose standard, whether it's a listing or a buyer. A couple of the other options, we do have for sale by owner here. So if your buyers are purchasing a private sale, it's not on the MLS, you do have this option here because the paperwork is a little bit different. For any of our PEI agents watching, you can choose the PEI option, and that is a specific checklist based on your paperwork. There is a referral checklist as well. This is just somewhere where you can upload a referral form and a cut sheet to submit to the office, but you can also email that in, that's no problem. And then commercial is for our commercial advisors team. Even if you were doing a commercial transaction, you are still going to choose standard unless you are part of the commercial advisors. So I'm going to choose standard, and you'll see once you choose standard, it creates 3 checklists down below. So for a buyer, we have consultation, under contract, and closed. Consultation is going to be all of your agency documents. So if we come over to the middle here, you can see we have a list of different documents. Some are required, some are conditional. And the main thing there is if it says required, it's something that's always required for that file. If it says conditional, it means if it exists, then we need it. If it does not exist, then we don't need it. For example, power of attorney. If the buyer does not have a power of attorney, you would not need to upload anything for this. Okay. Now you'll see next to each document, they're listed individually, we have a browse option. We're going to browse your computer to find that particular document, the same way you would attach a document to an email. So I'm going to browse here. And I have my buyer designated brokerage agreement. Okay. Do the same thing with my working with a realtor. And if this is all I have, maybe I don't have FinTrax yet, all I'm going to do once I've uploaded all of my documents is come up to the top and click Submit to MC. Now this is very important. If you don't click Submit to MC, we are not going to receive it. It's like the send button on an email. So if you don't hit submit, it's kind of in the abyss and we won't see it. So always make sure you click submit. This will pop up, click submit. And now you'll see the status here says submitted, and you'll see submitted next to your consultation, which indicates to you that the office has now received it.